Thanks for joining us for Elko Live today, Tuesday's edition in advance of the regular City Council meeting this afternoon. It's always a pleasure to sit across from City Manager Jan Baum, and Jan is going to bring us up to date on a variety of issues in advance of the meeting today. Welcome to the program, Jan.
Thank you very much for having me, Lori, and it's nice to be back.
It is great to have you here today. And again, the meeting at 4 o'clock this afternoon. There's quite a few interesting things. It's budget time, and we have the advantage. We have a fantastic financial services director in Julie Davis. But Jan, that is her former role with the city. So you'll be able to walk us through some of the budget highlights, too, in advance of today's meeting. So I brought it with me. Don't worry.
Oh, thank you.
Yes.
I had it set aside, and then I slipped out without getting it. So Julie Davis, this is her first presentation for the fiscal year 2027 budget cycle. And really, today's presentation from Julie is just laying out some of the facts, right? Everything is really facts, but laying out some of the revenue facts of where we are and, what has come in year to date for ad valorem and for sales tax. And of course, sales tax is a huge part of our budget. Nearly 60% of our revenue comes from sales tax. It used to be a little more, but it has been a little bit short in the last year, but we're not back completely to 2024 levels yet, but we're very close. So that's good. We'd like to be a little above 2024, but 2025 was a really strange year. Sales tax came in very inconsistently, and then we did have a true up at the end of the year, probably in August. I think it was late August, beginning of September. Actually, I think it was intended to be the end of August, and then the state computer system went down.
Yes, we got hijacked.
Yes, so then we didn't get it until the beginning of September, but it was a strange year last year for sales tax, so we're glad to see that it's starting to stabilize a little bit.
In fact, looking at Julie's presentation on the C-Tax, the consolidated tax update, estimating that 26 will be flat as compared to 24. As you said, there was just strange movement in 2025. And it's actually a bit reassuring to see that it's projected that currently 1% below fiscal year 24 funding levels, and that's with 6 out of the 12 payments received. So, it could be worse. As she said, we're flat. Right?
Yes, absolutely. We could be back into the 2025 levels. And so the difficult situation with that is a flat sales tax with a dip last year, but a flat sales tax when wages are about 85% of our budget. And we all know that wages do not stay flat. And so expenses are increasing at a higher rate than revenue. And I think most people know just from balancing your financials at home, that doesn't work out for very long. And so, we have our radar up and we're just really watching it.
In fact, some of the decisions that will be before the council, I think today, is it an action item or just a presentation, Jan?
Well, it's an action item, but they don't have to take action today if they haven't seen the roll-up. We call it the roll-up. So what some of the process, and I don't want to bore anybody, but what some of the process in the budgeting is, right now, the finance department, which is Julie and mainly Candy, they're reaching out to every department, and every department creates their own budget, and then she meets with all of them, and then she puts their individual budgets into a portal, and then it all rolls up and then we see where it comes out, and then based on that first roll up, which will likely be presented to council at the next meeting, the second meeting in March, and that will tell us a lot of where we are and where we're going.
And those important considerations, as Jan Baum is mentioning, The Consumer Price Index. Now, is that also known as COLA? Or?
Yes.
Okay. Thank
Well,
you.
it helps to determine our COLA.
Okay, the
So,
cost of living adjustment. So the CPI increases for the non-represented employees, according to Julie's presentation for January 2026, the CPI is at 2.5%. And so what's being presented will include that increase, that roll-up that will be presented at the next full workshop.
Yes, yes. So historically, the city of Elko uses the Western, I'm not going to state it completely right, and I don't know if she put it in there, but we use this Western United States CPI, Consumer Price Index, and we use that as our base for our COLAs, which are our cost of living. And so she's just reporting that's what the CPI is. And so for the presentations, she will use the 2.5 for non-represented only. And that's mainly the management. And the hourly employees, the majority of them belong to a union. And so those are negotiated in their contracts.
What does CBA stand for? Because I noticed here a CBA floor of 3% for operating, is that the employees?
Collective Bargaining Association.
Thank
unit.
you.
Yeah.
Yeah, both fire and I think the operating engineers. The patrol and sergeants contracts are pending. We do know it's public information that relationship is strained because of those PERS increases, right? So that's,
yes,
that's
so
a
the
big
PERS
issue.
increases were very large in fiscal year 2026, which is a push down from the state. Like, we have no say over that. And so we did settle the contract in fiscal year 2026, and basically what ended up happening in there is the city covered the PERS increase, and we settled on a 1-year contract. So now we're visiting again.
All right. So these are all decisions yet to come before the council. There'll be a deeper discussion into things like, the ad valorem taxes. Interesting to note, big changes in assessed valuation in the city over the last 20 years. If you compare 2006 and 7, when the assessed valuation, can you read that number? I mean, and then we'll compare it with today's number.
Right, 312 million.
Okay, that's what I wanted to make sure.
816,000, yes.
Yeah, 312 million was the assessed valuation plus, and then now it has grown to
874 million plus, right? Yes. So that is the assessed value, and then the taxes, though, are capped at a 3% increase. And so even when properties are increasing at whatever, 25% or something, the tax is capped at a 3% increase. And I believe, is it for businesses that it's a 6 or 8% increase?
That's why the city is not swimming in money right now in resources, because that is a cap that you deal with, even though other costs are certainly going up.
Absolutely. And that's all over the state.
Yes. And that's why some folks who are seeking the governor's seat are looking at, revising some of those provisions.
Yes. And that's been this way for many years.
Okay. So the assumption is a 3%, and this again according to Julie Davis, a 3% increase in ad valorem revenues in fiscal year 27 compared to 26 estimated. It's about 3% above 2025. That's what's trending, she says.
Absolutely. So because there's a cap on the ad valorem taxes of a 3%, we usually project just a 3% increase.
All right. More on that to come. Again, as we've been talking about, Jan Baum is our Elko city manager, but she's a former financial services director for the city, so we appreciate, I know the council will be asked to provide guidance to Julie and her department to start thinking about future workshops, because we're going to be running tight for a while, it looks like.
I believe so. And like I said, it'll be interesting to see how the roll-up comes up. Both Julie and I are a little nervous about it, probably because of, one, our conservative nature when it comes to numbers, and then secondly, you can just see the writing on the wall, So when sales tax that is 60% of your revenue is flat, and wages are going up anywhere from 3 to 5%. And they're 90 or 85% of the expenditures. It just doesn't work out real well. So it'll be something. So in government, most positions, there are steps, and then there are COLAs. And so in the private industry, because I was in the private industry for a lot of years, at the end of the year, in most industry anyway, not all, there was a COLA at the end of the year. And so somebody would get whatever the COLA is, 2 to 5%, whatever it is, whatever the company decided on. But in government, there's a pay matrix. And so most employees get a step increase in addition to the COLA. And so their increase could be, if it's a 2.5% COLA, and then there's a 1.5%. The steps vary in different contracts, but if there's a 1.5% or a 2% step, then they get a 4.5% or 4% increase. And so, with the average increases in wages being more than the sales tax increase, it chips away at your ending fund balance.
Right, and we see here fiscal year general fund ending balance decreased almost, over 900,000, 5% compared to 2024. So you can see what kind of recipe you have when you have declining sales and use taxes, which are 60% of the budget. You have your property taxes that are capped at 3.5%.
At 3%.
Yeah, 3%. And then you have these continued ongoing costs, including COLA and step raises. So
absolutely. And then that, doesn't... we aren't even talking about, services and supplies and the different increases that we received. And really, services and supplies, I believe, are starting to level out a little bit. We all know that 2 or 3 years ago, they were increasing by 10, 15% a year. It was just huge increases. But, so our budget for fiscal year 26, which we know it's a budget, it was a conservative budget, but it did project that our fund balance would go down by approximately $5,000. And we know it likely will not go down by the entire $5 million.
I was just going to ask.
$5 million. But when you start with a $15 million fund balance and you project that it's going to go down $5 million, and again, I don't think it'll go down the entire $5 million because that's just a budget. But even if it goes down 3 to 4, that doesn't give you very many years left.
No, and it's down 1, I think, right now, right?
Yes, in fiscal year 24, I believe, or 25.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was down, $1 million. So anyway, we've got our eyes on it for sure, and that's our job, is to protect the city as a whole and to advise council, and we will give them as many facts and transparency as we can, and then it's up to them to make the difficult decisions.
Right. So it should be reassuring, however, to listeners of the many decades of conservative leadership in the city of Elko. Certainly, city staff, I think you inherited a very healthy budget when you took over from Don at the time, right? Don Stout?
Yeah, I think, and Johnny was before me, I believe. I didn't ever meet either one of them, to be honest. But yes, so it's a conservative budget, and our balance was a lot lower before COVID, and it did increase during COVID because of some of the revenue replacement and some things like that. But now we need to try to conserve that.
All right. So something to keep in mind going into this, obviously, an election cycle. The budget will be a topic of conversation. Filing is underway through Friday, March 13th for 2 city council positions and the position of mayor. We're talking with our city manager, Jan Baum. Veering back onto the agenda, the budget is on the agenda as a presentation, but there are also some exciting prospects, and I think these are important to highlight, Jan, because it shows the city's readiness to embark on projects if we get federal funding, and there are 3 significant projects on here.
Oh, yes. So on the consent agenda, some of these grant applications came to us fairly quickly with quick turnaround. So we will ask for City Council to ratify some grant applications that we submitted. And two of those are almost identical, honestly, for the Federal House Appropriations Committee and the Federal Senate Appropriations Committee. We were advised at one time earlier this year that it was fine to put in the same project to both the House and the Senate, and so we're trying that one this time. So in fiscal year 2026, we've already been awarded a $2 million water refurbishment, which is wonderful. And so this is a project that we had in the application last year. So we're submitting that again, and it's for a $3.5 million water tank. It'll be on the south side of the river, and it'd just be really helpful for us on that side of town. So we put in that application for the community project funding. And then there was a big grant application, and that also came at us pretty quickly. And so Julie Davis, in the middle of budgeting, she's working on all of this for us as well, and helped us get this through. And it's called the Better Utilizing Investments to Leverage Development, which is the BUILD grant. Much easier to say, the BUILD grant. And it's through the USDOT. And so we did put in for the road portion of the Errecart Boulevard that would go around the hospital and come out on Errecart at Errecart Bridge. And this is just a real focus. We talked about it a lot during our 5-year strategic planning. And this is a project that I think that just about everybody in the community would really like to see brought home. So we thought, even if we don't get the grant, at least it's on the radar. And we really received a lot of letters of support for this grant. So we're excited we already submitted the grant, but the letters of support, I believe, are due on Thursday or Wednesday. So we'll get those submitted. And I don't know, just a little shout out there, if there's anybody out there that would like to issue a letter of support, please get a hold of myself or Jody at the City Hall at 775-777-7100. And we have a template, or if you would like to just write your own letter, that'd be great. We'll definitely submit that with the packet.
Yeah, one of these letters will be on the council agenda today for the mayor and council members to sign if they so choose, and I can't believe they wouldn't. Again, such an incredible amount of work that's gone into this, but it's actually years of planning. The city, contained in the letter, the city's demonstrated strong commitment to the project. $10.2 million already invested. That includes $8 million in ARPA funds, $2.15 million in local funds, which established the road base and critical utilities. And of course, all of this part of the city's adopted master plan. Again, just to illustrate and underscore the significance of planning, of which the city has been doing literally for decades.
Absolutely. And I cannot take credit for that. The city has always had a real good planning and a vision for the future, and this Errecart Boulevard is part of that. And when those ARPA dollars came in, because of that plan, it was, I don't want to say it was easy, but the plan was there. And so those projects were chosen, I think, wisely. And so we got Errecart Boulevard, the dirt work done, and the water line for about 2/3 of the way. And so this $14 million really to finish the water line and the road will be about $18 million. But we did the grant conservatively for $14 million because we didn't think the USDOT would pay for a water line. And but really we could hopefully finish it and pave it for approximately $18 million with the water line.
Fantastic. It's on the agenda today when the council meets in regular session at 4 o'clock. But there's more. There's another project, smaller, but it's a state grant, Conservation Natural Resources Department. And this one, I always appreciate a chance to elevate those who came before us. And Dennis Crooks, who was a city planner many, many years ago, who actually envisioned and then helped to launch the HARP, Humboldt Area River Project. This would extend that. Dennis is of late. Sadly, he's passed and will never, well, at least not from this plane, will not be able to appreciate his planning and good work. But it's always exciting to see the possibility of this being extended, Jan.
Oh, isn't that nice? And this is a critical portion of the HARP Trail. It would take us under the 12th Street Bridge and hook the HARP Trail into the future Endow fishery. So it's an important portion of the HARP Trail. And if you haven't ever gone and hiked or walked the HARP Trail, it's such a nice little walk, and it's a nice area, and there are portions that do need to be finished, and of course everything takes money, and so connecting that 12th Street under the 12th Street Bridge to the Endow fishery will be a great accomplishment. So we got that in last week as well.
That's great. You'll get a presentation on that during this afternoon's regular meeting. A good opportunity just to put in a plug for the City of Elko Cleanup Green Up, April 25th. You can volunteer to help clean up along the HARP Trail, and then you can see the birds and enjoy some of the nature. Yeah, it's a big lift. There's a lot of cleanup to do, but the more that people participate, the lighter the workload will be. And then the more we use that HARP Trail, the more we have stewardship of it.
Absolutely. The more it is used, the better it is. And there have been, I think, at least two recently, probably in the last 4 or 5 months, big cleanups done down by the HARP Trail by some of the residents who use it, as well as the city, and it was great. They kind of partnered together and did a big cleanup down there. But you're right, by April 25th, we'll definitely be ready for another cleanup.
Yeah, that's kind. That's so nice when those groups pitch in year-round. Also on the council agenda today, there'll be a presentation. This is exciting because I think the community's aware of it, but this might be one of the first formal presentations. I think they'll be appearing before the county commission as well. The Elko County School District and Elko High Booster Club is going to present the Rebuild Warrior Field project. And this is also pretty extensive, several $1 million.
Absolutely. So the presentation does include an estimated cost of approximately $7.8 million, which is, that's a huge price tag for the project. It's a great project. I think it would really enhance Elko High School and of course their track and field. And I was informed that they haven't had a track meet at the Elko High School since like 2020 or something.
Yeah, 2019, according to their presentation.
So
that's sad.
Horrible,
yes.
Right? So, they can't even have a track meet at the Elko High School. So that's very unfortunate. It's too bad that hasn't been brought to everybody's attention a little sooner. I think it's just unfortunate that we haven't had a track meet at the high school for 5-6 years. So anyway, so that's unfortunate, but they're going to give a presentation, and it is a non-action item. There is an ask in there for the Elko City Council for the city to participate. But I think it's an ask that probably needs to be absorbed and, and considered by the Elko City Council. And then as staff, I think it would be our responsibility after the ask to maybe determine where anything like that would even come from, whether it would come from a general fund or the rec fund or, different things like that. So it is a non-action item, but I'm very curious and interested to hear the presentation.
Yeah, the boosters will present Rebuild Warrior Field, Preserving a Legacy, Building a Future. They are going to be requesting donations from both the city and the county, and I think the justification is stated plainly here because sales tax revenue is generated from these events, room taxes, fuel tax, community space upgrade, because we do know the community uses the track and field area as well. So,
all right, I think there are a few events on the track and field, and yeah. I think that if the county and the city were to participate, then it definitely need to be a community effort and asset.
And so I think the city, the ask is, I understand, it's about $500,000. Is that right, Jan?
I believe so, and I can't remember if it's in that present. I got two presentations.
Yeah, I think it's in
them.
An older one.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So I feel like it was approximately that, and at one time there's been some confusion on what exactly the state would match if different entities participated, and so I think that but anyway, I think that is approximately the ask, but we'll definitely listen to them tonight, and I'm anxious to hear what they have to say.
And it will be, I think, a very thorough presentation because both the school superintendent, C.J. Anderson, and Drew D'Arietta, who is heading up the Booster Club ask, are going to be on hand for the presentation, Jan. At least that's the plan. And as you said, it is important to point out that there is new legislation to provide matching money to rural schools. The level of property tax allocations from participating entities will determine the amount of the state match and the overall campaign impact. So that will be discussed, and people, the public community, can ask questions.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, we're not even through the agenda yet because, like I said, there were quite a few cool things on here. Substantial completion, maybe approval. I don't know if it's acceptance for the Elko Regional Airport apron rehabilitation.
Yes, so that project is pretty much finished, and there was a little trouble, with the asphalt sinking a little bit, but I think they have that repaired, and so Jim Foster's just asking for that project to be closed out and substantial completion.
Oh, that is good news, definitely. Also skipping ahead under new business, possible performance agreement for the Bergeron Village patio homes. This is quite an addition in the vicinity. I can look it up there, but it's 17 homes on just over 3 acres. Right,
yeah,
Jan?
so yes, and this is a great little addition to that subdivision. So I sometimes forget that we hear about these subdivisions so much, we just know where they are. But the Bergeron subdivision is up there behind Wingers, and it's a brand new subdivision off of Jennings, and anyway, it has a lot of larger homes, and so I think that these patio homes will be a really nice addition. I believe there's like 17 of them, and so I'm excited to see that portion of the project.
So it occupies a couple of spaces on the agenda. Again, as Jan Baum explained, it's the north corner of East Jennings Way and Windsor Avenue, but it does provide some alternative type housing. Patio homes are typically, as they suggest, not large yards or landscaping, but it's a much smaller footprint.
Absolutely, and it isn't a townhome because they are standalone. They're standalone little homes, and so I think it'll be a great addition to the community as a whole. Maybe provide an alternative to a larger home. And you're right; it's on there 3 times, I believe, even the public hearing this afternoon. So.
And just backing up a bit, too, because we ended up with some time, I know, Jan, you wanted to announce that, the city is being asked, first of all, to consider closing a portion of Manzanita Lane to accommodate the Big Boy historic steam locomotive.
Yes, so Big Boy is what UP calls it, and Big Boy came through 2 years ago, about this exact time, and it was just a real hit. And so they, on April 15th, down by Manzanita, the same place that it was 2 years ago, Big Boy number 4014 will be coming through Elko. And UP has a long route for it to go, and it goes through town. I believe it is on April 7th, and then it comes back on the 15th, and that's when they'll have the viewing, and then it'll take off on April 16th. So it's a fun one.
Yeah, that is a fun one. Very exciting. So the community will remind folks as the date draws near, although it's hard to believe we're already, mid-March, something like that.
It's unbelievable.
Yeah, time is just whooshing by.
It just really is.
I don't know if there's anything else city-related, Jan. I hope we got to everything today. There's still more on the agenda, but obviously try to get the highlights.
Yeah, I think that's the highlights pretty much. The fish is asking for the land under the building to be conveyed, and so I think that it'll be good. Pastor Timothy Royal will be at the meeting to present, and it'll be interesting to hear. So about a year ago, their prior leader director was at the meeting, and we discussed the conveyance and the land and what they were going to do with it and where that was going. And there weren't a lot of answers, but I think at that time they were just kind of trying to survive. And now they're in a different position, and so it'll be good to hear how exactly they are requesting for the land to be conveyed and what for, why they need it, and then the city council can make a decision.
Yeah, and this is not atypical, certainly, because Committee Against Domestic Violence enjoys a similar transfer of land. They own the building. It's a nonprofit. It was constructed by the community. Fish also owns their building at 821 Water Street. It just gives them more leverage, purchasing, or maybe even, renovation potential if they own the property the building's on.
I believe so. So back when CADV asked for that land, they did indicate that they were wanting to add on, and it was difficult for them to do without owning the land. And so I'm not sure exactly why Fish is wanting the land, but I have a feeling we'll learn that tonight.
At the council meeting at 4 o'clock this afternoon. I'm just going to make a quick mention, since people could make both meetings, but there is an important school board meeting that'll open at 5:30 at the school district offices on Elm Street. You can also follow along online. I'm going to be doing my best to be following city council meeting, and it starts at 4, and then either online or popping over to the school district's Elm Street meeting. The big topic for the school board tonight is discussion and possible approval regarding the proposed consolidation of 5th grade from Flagview Intermediate back to their elementary schools. I need to make it very clear that this year's 5th graders nobody's moving this year if this were to even be approved. But Flagview would become a 6th grade, citywide 6th grade campus in the future, and teachers would also be offered the opportunity to transfer with 5th grade students, or other employees could be offered other jobs, but they will have all the 6th grade students on the campus there at Flagview. It's a money-saving move because just as we opened the city discussion talking about budget shortfalls, the school district is short $11 million.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so it'll be interesting to see what the school district does. It sounds like this move would save them approximately $500,000 out of the $11 million. So they still have a long ways to go.
They do. They have a long ways to go, and there'll be obviously concerns, teacher concerns, community concerns. Everybody is concerned. We've been on this fiscal cliff with the school district for at least a couple of years. It's going to take legislative action to redistribute a funding formula that's left 14 districts in the state of Nevada in financial dire straits. At the same time, the school board will also be pondering a declaration of financial emergency, and that is not to do with the school's finances. This has to do with reopening union or bargaining negotiations. So that's also a big step.
Absolutely.
Jan, thanks for giving a little time just to remind listeners of those important issues too facing our community.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, Lori.
City Council opens at 4 o'clock today at City Hall, or you can follow along online, elkocity.com. Thanks, listeners, for joining us.